Thinking about moving to Port St. Lucie? Before you get caught up in palm trees and backyard dreams, there's one big decision you'll need to make first. What kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? Do you want the resort-style convenience of a master-planned HOA community where everything is taken care of for you? Do you want total freedom with no HOA and no rules? Or maybe something in between? Each option comes with a very different lifestyle and very different monthly costs. In this video, I'll break down all three, what they cost, what you actually get, and what it feels like to live in each neighborhood. By the end, you'll know exactly where you fit in best here in Port St. Lucie. And if you're ready to fast track finding the right neighborhood or town, feel free to give me a quick call, text, or email. I'd love to help you make the best choice. Now, with that being said, let's dive right in. So when people talk about HOA versus non-HOA here in Port St. Lucie, they often lump a lot of different communities all into just two categories, HOA and non-HOA. But the truth is, there are really three types of neighborhoods that you're going to find here, and they each operate a little differently. The first is going to be non-HOA neighborhoods here in Port St. Lucie. These are areas with no homeowners associations at all. This is the most common option that we have here in Port St. Lucie. Some examples would be locations like River Park, a majority of central and southern Port St. Lucie, and areas near Torino Parkway. In these areas, you own the property and you're free and clear of any private neighborhood rules, meaning the only regulations you really need to follow are the normal city and county codes. There are no monthly HOA dues and no additional CDD fees and no approval process from a board if you ever wanted to make changes to your house. For a lot of people, me included, that freedom is a huge draw. If you have a boat, you can keep your boat right in your driveway, you can park your RV on your property, you can build a shed or have an addition to your home, and you can even do short-term rentals like Airbnb if you want to, without an association telling you no. The flip side to that is you're responsible for all of your own maintenance, and there's really no enforcement if your neighbor lets their home's appearance slide. The street's look and upkeep are just as good as each individual homeowner makes it. There's no collective standard being enforced. In other words, you might have the maximum amount of freedom, but so does your neighbor, and unfortunately, you'll sacrifice some uniformity and curb appeal. Next, let's move on to what I'll call traditional HOA communities that are not a part of master plan developments and that they typically don't have the CDD fee. These are standalone neighborhoods with an HOA. They are often smaller and a little quieter. They are sometimes gated, usually they are, and they are usually built by a single developer. A good example would be Mosaic. It's a new construction community that's being built by Coulter in South Port St. Lucie, or maybe an older established community like St. James Golf Club that's on the north side of town. In these neighborhoods, you do pay that monthly or quarterly HOA due, but it's usually just to cover a few amenities and services. For instance, you maybe have a community clubhouse, a pool, maybe a small gym, and services like lawn care and irrigation for the home. And because these aren't massive master plan developments, you don't have that extra layer of cost from the large infrastructure bond, aka that CDD fee, and the communities tend to feel a little bit more intimate. However, you still get some of the benefits of living in an HOA, like the gated entrance or consistent landscaping in the common areas, and you maybe have some rules that keep the neighborhood looking tidy, but the scope is more limited compared to master plan communities. Think of it as the middle ground. You trade a little bit of your freedom for a bit of convenience and consistency without as high of a fee as the master plan community. And since these neighborhoods are often smaller, they often have less drive-through traffic, fewer big events. It's a quieter lifestyle than huge master plan communities like Tradition or Wylder, which leads us right into our master plan community segment. In Port St. Lucie, this is places like Tradition, Riverland, or Central Park, or maybe the new Wylder development that's being built out west. These are essentially small towns on their own, large-scale developments comprising of multiple subdivisions, often with their own sub-HOAs. They have extensive amenities and even schools, shopping centers, or parks that are built right inside the community. Living here comes with both HOA fees and CDD fees. The HOA dues will cover your day-to-day community services like maybe resident exclusive amenities like the clubhouse or the pool, while the CDD, the Community Development District fee, is essentially a special tax assessment to fund the major infrastructures in the master plan community, like the roads, the sewer, the water system, landscaping, and big capital improvements made within the community. You'll see the CDD fee added to your annual property tax bill. It's often set for terms like a 20 to 30 year payoff. That's typically what the CDD fee term length is. Now, what you get for all of these fees is incredible. The feel in these master plan communities is like a self-contained town, like I said earlier. Everything is designed to be manicured, connected, activity, and amenity rich. For example, Tradition spans over 8,000 acres with multiple neighborhoods, a downtown square, parks, and its own hospital. You could live largely most of your daily life right within Tradition's boundaries. Wylder, the community I mentioned earlier being built out west, is the new 1,970-acre project that plans to have 3,400 homes or more. They have several distinct neighborhoods, including a 55-plus section. They have a golf course, a huge park, and even a future high school that's planning to be built on site. These big communities are often described, like I said earlier, as cities within cities. They have miles and miles of walking and biking trails and a full suite of recreational facilities at your disposal. The lifestyle is very amenity-driven and social by design. In a lot of these neighborhoods, everything's going to be done for you, and that's going to be kind of more in the next segment that we get into, but you're going to live a very plug-and-play lifestyle. Everything's done for you. It's all tidied up into one nice fee that you have to pay, and it's kind of a set-it-and-forget-it lifestyle. Now that we described each of those three neighborhood types, let's dive into a little bit more of the pros and cons of living in each type of community. First, let's go over the pros and cons of HOA communities. So if you live in an HOA community here in Port St. Lucie, it really offers that set it and forget it lifestyle, and that's perfect for anyone who wants low maintenance living and consistent surroundings. One of the biggest advantages by far is convenience. Many HOAs include lawn care, lawn irrigations, and sometimes even pest control as part of your monthly dues. In master plan communities like Tradition, you're also going to get bundled services like high-speed internet, cable, home security, and a lot more, and it's all rolled into one fee. That can actually save you a lot of money and time and convenience compared to managing those services and paying for each one by yourself. Then there are the resort-style amenities. You're going to have pools, gyms, tennis and pickleball courts, trails, and clubhouses, all just one short walk or golf cart ride away. If you regularly use these features, your HOA fee can easily pay for itself. Plus, in these amenity-rich communities like Riverland or PGA Verano, they often host events, classes, and clubs that makes it easy to meet your neighbors, make friends, and stay active. Another huge draw is the consistent curb appeal. Homeowners associations enforce rules that keeps homes and yards well maintained, which helps protect property values. You won't see unkept lawns or project cars that are being built out front, and overall, the uniformity gives that neighborhood a polished, well-kept look. But HOA living isn't for everyone, and here's why. The most obvious downside is going to be the fees. Depending on the community, you could be paying anywhere from $100 to over $500 per month for some high-end communities. Not to mention, if you buy in those master plan communities and not the traditional HOA communities, you can also expect those CDDs to be added to your taxes. And yes, HOA fees typically don't ever go down. Typically, they only ever rise over time, so take that into consideration. Then, there are also rules. If you want to paint your house a new color, add a new fence, or park a boat in the driveway, you'll likely need approval, or it may not be allowed at all. Many HOAs also ban short-term rentals and have pet or vehicle restrictions. For some, these rules create peace of mind, and for others, they feel too controlling, or they're just not options for them because they have a motorcycle, they have an RV, maybe they have a special type of dog that isn't allowed in the community. Lastly, there is the possibility of special assessments. If major repairs or upgrades come up and reserves fall short for the community, the HOA can require each homeowner to contribute. This isn't common in well-managed communities, but it is something to be aware of. At the end of the day, HOA living is about trade-offs. If you value a clean, amenity-rich environment and don't mind some structure, it can be a great fit. But if personal freedom is your top priority on the list, a non-HOA home might be more your style. Now let's talk about life in non-HOA neighborhoods, and like I said earlier, that's one of the most popular options here in Port St. Lucie. Why might you ask? Well, it's because it gives you the most freedom as possible while also being more affordable in most cases. Without an HOA, you're free to do whatever you want with your property as long as it's within city and county codes. You can paint your house any color you want, you can park your RV on your property, no problem, and you can add a big workshop in the backyard, no questions asked. There's no board approval, no monthly dues, no restrictions on renting. It's your space and you really are the rule maker. Another major perk, like I said, lower costs. You're not going to have a HOA or CDD added to your taxes, and that means more money is staying in your pocket. That could mean thousands of dollars that you save over the years, which you can easily reinvest in other parts of your home. Maybe you want a pool, a fence, or anything else. It's your choice. You're also going to get larger lots and more privacy as well. Many non-HOA homes here in Port St. Lucie sit on a quarter acre or even more. Compare that to some HOA communities where the homes are tightly packed with shared walls or small yards. A lot of times the land you get there is around 0.18 acres in a lot of communities. However, living in an HOA isn't perfect and it's not for everyone, and here's why. First reason is all the maintenance is going to be on you. There's no community landscaper or handyman to help if something breaks. And your neighbors, well, they can let their yard go wild. They can park a boat on their lawn if they want to, or get this, they could leave Christmas lights up all year round. If curb appeal matters to you, this can be frustrating. And also, there's no shared amenities. There's no clubhouse, no pool, no fitness center. All that, if you use those kind of things, you're going to have to pay for that on your own. That can be a big plus if you prefer privacy, but if you like structured social events or group activities, this lifestyle might feel a little bit too quiet for you. Finally, you're also going to need to accept that there's going to be less uniformity. Homes are going to vary in style, upkeep, and landscaping. For some, that's charm and it helps differentiate the neighborhood, and for others, that's a deal breaker. They don't like that. In short, non-HOA living gives you maximum freedom, flexibility, and lower monthly costs, but it's going to come at the price of personal responsibility and less neighborhood control. If you're someone who values independence and you don't mind doing things on your own and taking care of things on your own, it may be the perfect fit. Now, if you plan to rent your home out here in Port St. Lucie now or in the future, the neighborhood you choose is going to have a big impact. In non-HOA areas, renting, of course, is going to be flexible. And as of 2025, the city doesn't regulate short-term rentals. That means you can rent out your home long-term or short-term. Maybe think of something like Airbnb or VRBO or anything in between. No special permits are needed. Investors and snowbirds often love this freedom since there's no board approval, no lease minimums, and no restrictions beyond the basic city laws and taxes. In contrast, HOA communities almost always have rental restrictions. Most are going to require the minimum lease be at least 6 to 12 months, and short-term vacation rentals like Airbnb and VRBO typically are banned. Some HOAs will limit how often you can rent, or they maybe even delay rental eligibility if you're a new homeowner in the community. So sometimes you maybe have to wait a year or maybe even 2 after purchasing the home in order to be eligible to rent your home out. Popular Port St. Lucie homeowners associations like maybe Vitalia or Lake Charles, they're going to enforce these rules very strict. Renting in an HOA also almost always involves extra steps. You're going to have tenant applications, approval fees, and owner responsibility for tenant behavior. It's manageable, but it's definitely more hands-on than you'd think. If you're planning on using your property for short-term rental income or want maximum rental flexibility, non-HOA neighborhoods are by far going to be the better fit. But if long-term rental in a well-maintained community is fine with you, homeowners associations can still work. Just make sure you review the rules and restrictions before you buy. So here's the big picture. In Port St. Lucie, you got those 3 very different neighborhood styles to choose from, and each one of those 3 come with a completely different cost of living and way of living. If you want total freedom with your property, no monthly fees, no restrictions, and the ability to rent it however you would like, non-HOA areas are going to be your best bet. They're great for investors, first-time homeowners, snowbirds, or anyone who values independence over uniformity and amenities. Then there are your traditional HOA communities. These strike a nice middle ground. You'll pay a reasonable monthly fee, and you'll get some perks like maybe a pool, lawn care, or maybe enjoy a cleaner, more consistent neighborhood. There are rules, but usually they're more manageable, and you're not paying for a bunch of extra stuff that you might not ever use. Finally, if you're looking for that full resort-style lifestyle, multiple pools, clubhouses, events, beautifully maintained surroundings, you're definitely going to want to check out some of the master plan communities Port St. Lucie has to offer, like Tradition or Riverland. They offer convenience and a community right at your doorstep, but that does come with some higher costs and more structure. Ultimately, it comes down to what matters most for you: freedom, a balance maybe right in between, or full service living. The good news is Port St. Lucie has all 3 of them at your disposal. And if you're still unsure, I'd be more than happy to help you explore your options in person and figure out what best fits your lifestyle and long-term plans. My contact is going to be on screen here and down below, so don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to help you out as well. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It helps me out an absolute ton. I would really appreciate that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.